What's up? What's up, YouTube? Karmelo Anthony parents exposed and arrested after murder plot against what? No forgiveness. Alright, this real short, man. I haven't been covering this Karmelo Anthony thing too much. I feel so sorry for this brother, man, because he gonna do some time. That's all. I come on, man. You can't call self-defense when you could have left the tent. That should be the t-shirt, man. Rest in peace,
Karmelo Anthony,
to his to the little boy that passed away, man. I don't know too much about the whole thing, but you can't yell self-defense when all you had to do is leave the tent. Y'all hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, man. Let's check this out.
Karmelo Anthony is charged with killing Austin Metcalf by stabbing him in the chest during a dispute over seating in the bleachers at a high school track meet.
You wake up to the shocking news that Karmelo Anthony's parents have been arrested by federal agents after they found what prosecutors call a carefully planned murder plot. The number at the center of the accusations is shocking. A hired killer is said to have received $230,000. 0 cents. The police say this wasn't a random act. The planned operation, which included many money transfers, encrypted messages, and late-night meetings, painted a chilling picture of premeditation. Court documents explain how law enforcement put the plan together. Investigators kept an eye on strange withdrawals and saw that $50,000, 0 cents, was repeatedly moved between accounts until it added up to $230,000, 0 cents. The prosecution says that this money went to a middleman who was close to the person who was hired to make the attempt. Reports say that a timeline made from surveillance footage, intercepted text messages, and banking logs shows that the planning for the arrest took weeks. Witnesses say that the mood was tense when the arrest happened. People saw agents in tactical gear moving quickly and with purpose, and neighbors said they saw federal SUVs parked along the block. They didn't think twice. One person who saw it happen said that doors were kicked in and papers were everywhere. Reports say that officers found cash records, electronic devices, and ledgers with what looked like coded notes about the payments inside the house. The prosecutors say that finding these things makes the state's case stronger and the defense's case weaker. The courtroom is now getting ready for what will be a very public fight. Defense lawyers are likely to argue that the money had nothing to do with violence and that the charges are exaggerated and based on circumstances.
I asked the grand jury to return a first-degree murder indictment against Karmelo Anthony, which they did.
A Texas district attorney taking to social media to announce Karmelo Anthony is formally facing charges that could lock him up for life.
But legal experts are already saying that the combination of money trails and eyewitness accounts makes it almost impossible to deny the charges. Every new piece of information adds to the tension in the legal community. People are now wondering how far someone would go to cover their tracks in a case this serious, where hundreds of thousands of dollars are on the line. Would you believe the defense's claim that the transactions were not wrong? Or do you think that the $230,000, 0 cents payment is clear proof of intent? As you sit in the crowded courtroom, the prosecution gives its first speech. They say the $230,000, 0 cents, I amount with a steady but sharp voice. A big projection screen behind them shows a series of bank statements. There are lines and lines of coded payments, transfers, and withdrawals. The jurors lean forward and look at the numbers as each document is shown, which makes the tension grow. The prosecutor tells the jury this was not a coincidence. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a payment for blood. The defense immediately objects, saying that the statements are being blown out of proportion without giving any context. The judge, on the other hand, agrees with the evidence. The jury quickly sees the pattern in the transactions. Money is always going toward the same goal. Prosecutors then connect these payments to phone records that show Karmelo Anthony's parents talking to a suspected middleman late at night. They say this person was the link to the hired killer. The mood in the courtroom gets heavier as testimony begins. Investigators called in a financial analyst to explain how these strange movements made them suspicious and led to the more thorough investigation that eventually revealed the supposed plot. The analyst says that the money trail tells a story of planning, intent, and preparation. Karmelo's parents sit stiffly across the aisle, their faces frozen, and they hardly look at each other, while their lawyers write notes quickly. Reporters said that the room's silence was almost too much to handle. The $230,000 0 cents.
He and Metcalf were both football stars at their Texas high schools. Metcalf was taking recruiting visits at some big schools like Arkansas. He planned to play at the next level, and Anthony also posted on social media that he was receiving scholarship offers to go play college football.
I amount is repeated over and over again without a cough or whisper, and the analyst's voice echoes. Later, witnesses say that it looked like the number itself was being tried, a number that is too exact and purposeful to be ignored. The defense, on the other hand, says that they will tell a completely different story, one that makes these payments seem legal and not connected to violence, even though the prosecution has strong arguments.
Wow.
Will the jury see the $230,000 0 cents as proof of guilt? That is still a question that needs to be answered. Can the defense weaken the prosecution's story before it's too late? When you hear the bailiff call the next witness, the tension goes up right away. A former friend of the Anthony family testifies, a man once said he was a close friend. The people in the courtroom see him shifting around in his chair and not looking at Karmelo's parents. The prosecutor doesn't waste any time. Have they ever talked about hiring someone to do violent crimes for them? The witness takes a deep breath and says, yes, they told me it needed to be handled quietly and they were willing to pay. The gallery gasps in shock. The jurors' pens scratch against the paper as they try to take in every word. Their eyes stay on the witness. He goes on to say that during late night talks, there were clear calls to fix things and make sure Austin Metcalf's family couldn't say no anymore. These claims make it hard for people connected to the first stabbing that shocked the community to speak out because they directly link the Anthony parents' money problems to a motive. Defense attorneys show up and bombard the witness with questions meant to make him look bad. Weren't you also facing charges when you came forward? A lawyer pushes. The witness admits that he was, but he says that his decision to testify was not a way to get what he wanted. This is how things are. I was there. I heard it. And I knew that things would go wrong if no one said anything. People who are watching pay attention to how the parents react or don't react. They stay eerily still and their poise is almost defiant. Some reporters say it shows that the person has lost, while others say it is a mask of control. One juror can't stop looking at the accused and the witness as if they are weighing every move. Outside the courthouse, the protesters are chanting louder than ever. Some people are calling for justice for Austin Metcalf's family. They are holding signs that say blood paid for and money can't buy innocence. Some people still believe that the Anthony parents are being used as scapegoats. They can say that the whole trial was a federal witch hunt. The question becomes even more important when the people closest to them start to speak up. How much will the jury trust insiders who say they know the truth? You can hear the defense team shuffling papers as they get up. Before speaking to the jury, their main lawyer fixes his glasses. His voice is firm and almost rehearsed. Ladies and gentlemen, what you heard is not true. It's really bad. Witnesses are making up stories to protect themselves, even though they have every reason to lie. He points to the stand, which makes people question the so-called close friends' motives. The defense says that the testimony is just a way to get leniency in cases that aren't related. They quickly turn their attention to the $230,000 0 cents withdrawal, which is probably the prosecution's strongest point. The lawyer says it's a bad business investment, which suggests that the money was linked to a failed real estate deal.
Why the hell they show that picture? What is this?
Cents withdrawal, which is probably the prosecution's strongest point. The lawyer says it's a bad business investment, which suggests that the money was linked to a failed real estate deal instead of a plan to kill someone.
Another athlete who wasn't on Metcalf's team stood under the tent. His name was Karmelo Anthony.
Karmelo Anthony, class of 2025, Centennial High School, Frisco, Texas.
That's video of Anthony mic'd up for a football tournament for Carolina Sports District that we found on YouTube.
He even gives part of the paperwork that shows how the parents sent money to fake companies. The implication is that these were careless financial decisions that prosecutors are turning into something worse than payments to a hitman. The juror sits still while the defense shows each slide on the projector. One juror shakes her head and another leans forward and squints at a bank record that has been blown up on the screen. The lawyer uses these answers to push the issue further. Correlation does not imply causation. It's not the same thing to kill someone as to keep bad records. Reporters in the press box are frantically tapping away at their laptops. Some people have called the defense's counterattack aggressive but planned. Some people say that compared to the scary testimonies that have already been heard, it doesn't have much emotional weight. Karmelo's parents sit quietly with their hands folded in their laps and nod from time to time as their lawyer argues for their innocence. There were more divisions than ever in the crowds outside. Some protesters defend the parents as victims of financial profiling, while others yell about blood money. The number sign Justice for Metcalf is trending along with social media hashtags that go crazy with the sign. The tension is now different. If the defense is able to make the difference between financial irresponsibility and criminal intent unclear, will the jury start to question whether the prosecution has really linked this money to violence, or is it just a bunch of lies? The prosecutor abruptly requests permission from the judge to play a piece of evidence that hasn't been shown to the public while you are seated in the courtroom. The lights go out and a projector turns on. The screen shows grainy security footage. The timestamp shows that it was only a few days before the attempted hit. A man who the prosecution says is Karmelo Anthony's father meets the alleged hitman in a parking garage in the video. The jurors' eyes grow wider as the video shows a short conversation and an envelope being passed from one hand to another. The blurry video, according to prosecutors, shows the exact amount of money that was taken out of the couple's account. This isn't a business deal, the prosecutor says again and again. This is punishment for murder. The accusation hangs in the air and the room is completely still. To back up their case, the prosecution shows a number of text messages that were found on the phone of the person they think is the hitman. Funds cleared, one says. The job is due on Sunday. Prosecutors say that a burner phone linked to the parents sent another message that said, "No loose end." These words flash across the projector screen in big letters, making everyone in the gallery gasp. Karmelo's parents sit still in the bright lights of the courtroom, their faces pale. His father doesn't even look at the evidence on display. He keeps his eyes on the judge. His mother bows her head and puts her hands together. As they talk to each other, reporters are already guessing what the big stories will be on the evening news. The defense quickly raises objections, saying that the messages could have been made up or taken out of context and that the evidence was misinterpreted.
You wonder now if that will ever happen because of what he allegedly did next on April 2nd. That day, Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf got into a confrontation under the tent. According to witnesses, Metcalf told Anthony to leave the team's tent, and at that point, Anthony allegedly reached into his backpack and said something along the lines of "make me." Here's what Austin's twin brother told WFAA-TV.
But the damage has already been done. Some of the jurors look at each other and it's clear that they are shaken by what they just saw. As more and more evidence comes to light, the question that is looming is becoming more and more important both inside and outside the courtroom. If the money, the video, and the messages all match up, how much longer can the parents deny their part before the jury makes a decision? As soon as you step outside the courthouse, you can hear the crowd before you can see it. There are dozens of protesters on the steps holding signs that say "Justice for Austin Metcalf" and "Blood money won't hide the truth." Chants echo off the concrete walls as people demand accountability for what many are calling one of the most upsetting betrayals in the case. Police set up a barricade to keep things from getting out of hand while cameras record everything that happens. The Metcalf family, along with their lawyers, shows up not long after. Austin's mother stops in front of the reporters, tears streaming down her face as she holds a picture of her son in a frame. Even though her voice shakes, the message is clear. No amount of money, a plot, or a cover-up will ever bring our son back. Only justice will. The statement quickly spreads online, making people all over the country angry and sad. Within hours, hashtags like "blood on their hands" and "justice for Austin" and "Anthony cover-up" spread quickly on social media. On Twitter, people share parts of the supposed surveillance video, and people who aren't professionals break down each frame.
There was this kid, before I knew his name now, this kid was sitting under our tent at track. We asked him to move. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. And my brother stepped in and said, "You need to move." And he's like, "Make me move." Austin grabbed his backpack. The kid, I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab.
Some people say that the proof is clear. Some people don't believe the defense's claim that the texts were fake. No matter what, rumors are going around online, which makes the Anthony family look even worse. In the meantime, sponsors and former allies start to quietly pull away. A charity takes the family's names off its website after working with them. Nearby businesses put out statements saying the charges are false. The fallout is spreading quickly, with every headline having a dark tone. This is no longer just about Karmelo. It has to do with the legacy of his whole family. And now the question is coming up more and more often. If the public already thinks the parents are guilty, can they get through a trial without the jury seeing them as symbols of corruption and treachery? You watch in the courtroom as the last motions are made. Every moment that passed, the tension in the air seemed to get stronger. The judge walks in and the sound of his gavel cracking loudly stops everything in the room. The marshals take the Anthony parents inside. Their faces are pale and stiff, and as rumors of the $230,000 0 cents payment spread, whispers can be heard all over the gallery. The prosecutors stand up and make their final points with chilling precision. This wasn't just a coincidence. This was planned, coordinated, and carried out on purpose. The paper trail is real. A projector shows pictures of text messages, 18 withdrawals, and wire transfers. Investigators say this shows that the family was directly involved in hiring the killer. Every new piece of evidence makes the crowd gasp, which adds to the anger that is already building outside the courthouse. The defense says that the documents are being read wrong and that the Antonys are the targets of a smear campaign, but the evidence that has already been shown is stronger than their arguments. Karmelo sits in the back with his eyes closed, refusing to look at the reporters or the Metcalf family, and then the moment that wasn't expected comes. The judge says that both parents will stay in jail without bail because the charges are serious, and there is a chance that more evidence will be tampered with. People in the courtroom scream in disbelief and clap. Before the trial even starts, marshals take the Antonys away because the sound of protesters getting louder outside sounds like a verdict. And the question remains, even after the last gavel falls of the day, despite wealth, power, or influence, is this the start of something worse that will happen, or are we seeing the end of their reign?
Wow, dog, are you serious? I don't know. I don't know, man.